So the UK Youth Parliament is a replica copy of the adult parliament, but for young people. We know that young people want us, as their elected youth MPs, to campaign on climate change and health and well-being, and we'll do campaigns around those areas. Collective action. Thousands of young people have emailed you asking for this to happen. We did that, and the government met with us. We're not the leaders of tomorrow, we're the leaders of today.
皆様ごきげんよう、高松菜奈です。本日私はイギリスのレスターにやってまいりました。今日はですね、イギリスの若者議会の議員でありまして、イギリス議会のボランティア・オブ・ザ・イヤーに選ばれた17歳のデヴ・シャラマさんにお話をお伺いします。デヴさんはなんとイギリスの首相に公開書簡を送りまして、それを政策に反映させたというすごい方なんです。イギリスの若者の政治参加の意識、どのように社会を動かしているのか迫ります。Please introduce yourself.
My name is Dev Sharma. I'm 17 from Leicester. I'm the elected youth MP for the city of Winchester.
What is the UK Youth Parliament?
So the UK Youth Parliament is a replica copy of the adult parliament, but for young people. So what the government did was they saw that young people's voices weren't being represented, that young people who can't vote, to vote you have to be 18 years old, they're not really listened to. So what they did is they replicated the adult parliament and created the youth parliament. We have elections, around 1 million young people across the UK vote for their elected representative. And in my constituency of Winchester, around 10,000 young people voted to elect me to become their youth MP. Once I'm elected, I go in and I become a member of the youth parliament. I have access to meetings with decision makers and lobbyists. I get to meet other young people in my local community doing amazing things, and I get access to resources nationally amongst the UK Youth Parliament. The UK Youth Parliament is run by the British Youth Council, but it's funded by the UK Parliament. So the adult UK Parliament with all the MPs and Boris Johnson and all of these people, their money funds the Youth Parliament. But the internal organisation that runs it, that's got the money, is called the British Youth Council, and they were founded by the UK government to run young people activities and youth activities. I'm an elected member of the Youth Parliament, and I become a member of the Youth Parliament. But I also run a different charity called Bike Back 2030, which is where I've done a lot of my junk food campaigning. So those are like two different things, but they merge together quite a lot because it's campaigning at the end of the day, and it's all, quite similar.
What are the specific activities of the Youth Parliament?
So the Youth Parliament collectively has shared campaigns and shared values and ideas that we all collectively campaign towards. One of them being votes at 16. There's a national priority for the UK Youth Parliament to campaign to get the voting age lowered to 16 years old. And the reason that's important is because in the UK, young people can get married at 16, they can join the army at 16, they can serve the country at the age of 16, yet they can't vote. And we as a collective come together and we say this is a priority that should be addressed. Another one of our key campaign priorities is climate change and tackling climate change. Every year, the UK Youth Parliament conducts a survey of young people of what do they want, what is the issue that matters to them. Last year, 1 million young people took part in the survey. It's called Make Your Mark. And the top issues that came out were health and well-being and climate change. So these two topics is what will serve as our national priorities. We know that young people want us, as their elected youth MPs, to campaign on climate change and health and well-being, and we'll do campaigns around those areas.
How often do you work as a member of the Youth Parliament?
So it requires a slight level of commitment, considering their studies and then of course campaigning too. I'd say that we meet quite regularly, and what we have is regular meetings amongst our local youth council, which is basically our local, all the youth MPs within the local area. And I'll meet all the local youth MPs possibly weekly. I'd say every 2 weeks I meet with all the other youth MPs for the region, so the south of England, all the other youth MPs meet together. And what we're doing is we're exchanging ideas, exchanging tactics, campaigning, planning our campaigns, And really, I mean, the amount of commitment and level you want to put is completely up to you. But a decent level of commitment is required, and you're required to be able to speak up for your generation and do it in an effective and proper way. So it's rewarding at the end of the day, and it's really, really fun.
Why did you decide to run for youth parliament?
I was 15 years old. I was one of those young people who always had a problem with something and wanted to say something about it. I think I had this realization that I was 15 growing up. I'd already lived through 2 recessions in my lifetime. All my youth clubs were shut. I would go to school and my school was underfunded and didn't have enough funding to be able to even give us stationery. And our teachers would always be complaining about wages. I realized that this is the world that we as young people are having to grow up in, even though we live in the 5th largest economy in the world. We're living in the UK, yet this is the reality that young people are growing up with. And I realized that this is not right, and that's kind of where my interest in politics came from. And so I heard about the Youth Parliament and this incredible opportunity to be able to talk about the problems that impact my community and my peers. And I ran and I was elected by my peers.
What are the advantages of the youth parliament?
I think young people are the largest minority within our society today. We are key stakeholders within our community, and we deserve to have a voice, and often we aren't. So one of the greatest strengths of the Youth Parliament is that it gives young people a voice in their local community. It allows young people's voices to be heard directly by politicians and decision makers right at the top. I think that's one of the best things about the Youth Parliament, that it represents young people's voices in an authentic and raw way, in a way that is actually it's meaningful and it's not tokenistic. I brought Nana to my high street to show her the flood of unhealthy food that's really present everywhere. As we walk, you'll see how young people are bombarded with junk food on their high streets. Literally every step that they take, it's bursting out from our high streets. If you look over here, you'll see that nearly 1 in 3 food outlets are for junk food, maybe even more. And when you get to the centre of town, it just bombards you from every angle. Let's go, Nana. So look, if we counted, this is our first food outlet, it's junk food. This is the second one. And it's really everywhere, and for a young person growing up who doesn't really have much options, who doesn't have much money, it can be quite difficult to eat healthy, especially when the unhealthy option is the cheapest option. So I'm going to describe to Nana what it's like when I finish from school and how I am bombarded by junk food in every single place that I go to. I've just finished school and I see awesome chips over there, a Costa coffee, a Burger King. Over here, there's a Chopsticks noodle bar. Over there, there's a Five Guys. Over there, there's a McDonald's. And lastly, over here, there's a Tim Hortons. I've literally just gone 360 all around. I've gone all around me, and I am being bombarded and being entrapped by foods that aren't good for me. And I can't see a single outlet over here selling healthy, affordable food, let alone healthy food. And so when young people are having to grow up with this as their everyday option, as their norm, as their environment, how can we expect them to be healthy? How can we expect them to grow up healthy and strong and living decent lives? And that's why we're campaigning. That's why we want young people to stand up against big food, tell politicians about these injustices that they grow up around, and really speak truth to power, that this shouldn't be happening, that we need more help for young people to be able to grow up healthy, and we need to put healthy food on the spotlight. Something I'm really proud of and something that we've worked on is we, at Buy Back 2030, led the campaign to ban junk food advertising online. So I wrote an open letter to the government calling on them to ban junk food advertising online. And the reason we did this is because it was the middle of lockdown and I was doing schoolwork and I noticed that I had a bunch of junk food ads popping up on my screen all the time. We read government documents afterwards and we found that over 15 billion junk food ads were being seen by young people just in 2019. And that was the government reporting it themselves. And so we realized this is a massive problem 15 billion ads is 300 adverts per second. That is crazy. It's an astronomical number. And we said that if adverts for tobacco, adverts for gambling, if those are banned, then why is adverts for junk food, why is that being targeted, especially to young people? And so we ran the campaign, and the way that we did it was that we said anytime someone signed the open letter, it would automatically email the government, and it would automatically send an email to the government ministers. So what happened was, every time someone signed the letter, the government was bombarded with a bunch of emails to the health secretary. The government were then like, why are we having so many emails? And they realized it's because young people are asking for junk food advertising to be banned. And so they offered to meet with us, and they had a meeting with the UK government saying, this is our ask, this is what we want, collective action. Thousands of young people have emailed you asking for this to happen. We did that, and the government met with us. We met with the Minister for Health, and she committed to banning junk food advertising online. And later it was then implemented into the Queen's speech, and the Queen actually said that junk food advertising would be banned online and on television before 9 p.m. And that was a massive campaigning win.
Many younger people in Japan have given up on the idea that they cannot change society. How do you think we can get young people in Japan to believe that they can change society?
I have a message for the young people of Japan, saying we're not the leaders of tomorrow, we're the leaders of today. We have the power, the ability to create change and get adults to listen to us. Look at the climate change movement. Look at what we've done with food in the UK. When young people speak truth to power, adults listen. An inspired, an educated, and an empowered young person is no match against an ill-informed politician. And really, if we stand up together, hand in hand, we can create change for the better, for our generation. It really is possible. Because there is authenticity when you speak. There is a lived experience that you are talking from as a young person, and people are having to listen. If you speak about an issue that you're passionate about, even if you think no one's listening, it's going in and they're taking it in, and it's hitting a nerve. And I think when we as young people, as a generation, realize that we have that ability to create change, to get adults and politicians to listen to us, that's when you unlock another generation of change makers. That's when you unlock a generation that will go out and create the change that we desperately need in society.
最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。ぜひチャンネル登録、高評価お願いいたします。それではまたごきげんよう。